Hi everybody, Chris here. Welcome to your final Friday live stream. And yes, your Excel year starts here. Well, what do we mean by that? Your Excel year starting here? Well, you're here because you're interested in Excel. That's great. Everyone here is interested in Excel to some extent, but it's likely you're experiencing some kind of frustration with Excel. So, what if this year was different? In the next hour or so, we're going to cover story, we're going to cover systems, and we're going to cover starter kit. So what do those three things mean? Well, my story, I'm going to share with you over the next 20 minutes or so. Your story is important because Excel success, career success, meaningful life change, it's about more than a few formulae and a few tips. So what's your story? I'm going to give you mine. I'm going to encourage you to reflect on yours. Then we're going to talk about systems. I'm going to give you the one conceptual framework. That's a big word, isn't it? But the one dead simple idea that simplifies all Excel work for me. It's not technical at all. It's really easy. It's to do with personalities. We're going to cover that as well. And then starter kits. So we're going to talk about a journey today. Yeah, it's not strictly come dancing, but we are getting a little bit cheesy. So where are you on your journey? And what are the essential tools, the practical stuff that you need to really get started? So today is not a tutorial. It's a moment, and it's your Excel year starts here, and it's the year of your Excel success. So to get us started, I've got some artifacts here. What are these things? So I've got this book here. It just looks like a normal exercise book. Anything kind of noticeable here? I would, show it to the camera, but it's going to be out of focus. But you notice anything about this? And then I've got another artifact here, artifact 2. Now this is, you can probably just see it's a little case, and it's got this little tube in that looks something like this. I'll just hold it up over here. What on earth is this? Have you ever seen these things? And why do they mean anything? And if you're watching live, by the way, I will check the comments as we go through. If you're watching on replay, thank you for watching too. If you're listening on podcast, fantastic. Leave me a comment. I will get back to you. Well, this exercise book I bought back in 2008. It's just a normal exercise book, but I love the way this exercise book looks. I love the design. It's so clean. I love the way the pages are laid out. It's just dead simple. And this thing, this is called a hanko. This is called a hanko. What's a hanko? Well, in a country in Asia, this is what you use for identification. We might be used to in Western cultures doing a signature, less so these days because, we're paying stuff contactless, aren't we? But we have to do a signature to sign contracts, wills, mortgages, whatever it might be. In this country, you have a stamp. So you don't write your name at all. You carry around this little plastic stamp. You've got a little ink pad in your case, and that's what you use to sign official documents. So when I was living in this country, I had one of these. It's got my name marked on it, and it's unique to me. Use it as a kind of signature. Yes, these items are from back in 2008. 2008, when I was living in Japan. And why does this matter today? Because for me, it was something of a low point. So what was happening in 2008? Well, personally for me, I was living and working in Tokyo. I'd finished university in 2004. Been in Japan about 2 years. I taught English for 2 years in a Japanese high school up in Fukushima in northern Japan. And then after a couple of years, I moved to Tokyo and I got a job with a Japanese public relations company, just a small boutique firm. And it was amazing living in Tokyo. Felt completely out of my depth with the work. So I was working with European American technology companies looking to get into the Japanese market, doing market analysis, like showing their executives around Tokyo, helping them meet the Japanese press, things like that. And yeah, it was a struggle. We'll get into that. But then life was pretty good. But it all finished. It all finished very quickly. It all finished one afternoon. One afternoon, the boss's daughter, who worked for the company too, took me out for a coffee. I was like, this is unusual, not very Japanese. Japanese culture, you don't really talk to your colleagues much at all outside of work. But she did me a favor because she said, Chris, I'm giving you a heads up. You're going to be made redundant. And that was it. Life just changed like that. And why was I made redundant? Well, in the background, at the macro level, if you like, the economic crisis was unfolding. And our biggest customer, who's a manufacturer of semiconductors from Taiwan, just phoned up our boss and said, we're going to cut our Japan PR budget by a third. It might have been by 2/3, actually. And that was a huge amount of money coming into the company. So me and others immediately were made redundant. Very little notice. This company did pay my salary for a couple of months, which is fantastic, very generous of them. I think they were contractually obliged to do that. But anyway, suddenly I was like, what do I do? What do I do here? I was very far from home, geographically in terms of distance. I was on the other side of the world, but also I've been out in Japan having a good time, but not really carving out a career. And I think deep down, I felt I hadn't made the career decisions that I needed to make to get on a clear career path. So literally, if you like, and figuratively, I was far from home. I was, just not feeling like I was on the right path. So what to do? And probably the biggest decisions I've ever made in my life, to be honest, because I had friends who were doing great in Tokyo. I had friends who were married, were having children, having families in Tokyo. So what to do? And I decided to come home, and I got in touch with one of my old tutors from my old university. And I said, this is what I've been doing business consultancy, really enjoying it. I'll be interested in doing a master's to kind of build on this. And this person put me in touch with somebody at Warwick Business School. I've had a relationship with the business school for the past 15 years. And I went on to do a master's in business analytics and consulting. Now, this master's, I had to go and be interviewed for it. And at the interview, the guy tried to kind of talk me out of doing this master's. Why? You would have thought I'd be a good candidate, because this master's was quite a technical master's, quite a numerical master's, lots of analysis, even some statistics, things like this. And I remember the guy who I now know, and is a really nice guy, said, listen, we've got this nice marketing master's, a nice soft and fluffy marketing master's. Hey, I don't want to demean marketing. It's fantastic, amazing subject, but why don't you do that? And wasn't interested in doing that. I wanted to do something more technical, because once again, inside me, I had this doubt about whether I was a technical person. You see, the truth is I come from quite an academic family. I've got a twin sister who's incredibly clever, and keeping up with all that is quite hard work. There's one subject I didn't do well in at school, did well in all subjects, and that subject was maths. And I had carried that with me. And I think in a way I had been avoiding numbers, avoiding analytical stuff in my career until then. At that moment when I committed to do this master's, it's a huge commitment. You're taking a year out of your life in your 20s. You can look online how much one of these masters costs. I had from Japan, I had a pension fund, small pension fund. That all went on the masters. It was a big commitment. It really had to work. So I started this master's, and I remember feeling very committed to this master's. I remember people, my university friends, hearing, oh, Chris, you're back in the UK, do you want to come and meet up? And I was saying, guys, can't meet up because, I've got to do some homework, got to learn some statistics, whatever it might be. Felt very committed to this master's, meeting people on the master's, going quite well, but also really difficult. And feeling I'm understanding some things, but you know what it's like at school or in an academic setting, quite difficult to understand other things. You know what it's like. And I thought I was doing okay, but then I started getting some results. We started doing exams, assessment, you're assessed through the course, and it wasn't good news. Wasn't good news for me. And I failed the statistics module. And suddenly some of those demons started coming back. I can't do maths. I'm a linguist. I should just stick to languages. I'm an arts person. I should just stick to arts. And at the same time, there were technical people on this course who were just cruising through, people who had management consulting experience and analytical stuff, just cruising through this program. So once again, this feeling of alienation came back to me. Was I in the right place at the right time? And I actually considered quitting the masters, considered converting to that nice marketing masters that had originally been sold to me. And then I started getting good at one thing, which was Excel. Because a master's in business analysis is pretty much a master's in spreadsheets. And this master's started in October 2008. So Christmas 2008, we had a big piece of coursework to do. And the coursework was for a module called spreadsheet modeling. And I was struggling on the course, but I remember Christmas Eve 2008, my family goes to a Chinese takeaway on Christmas Eve. Used to go to the restaurant. Now we have the takeaway. This Christmas Eve just gone, my family all got together and we had this takeaway. Absolutely fantastic. Young Sing, Bingham, Nottingham. And after the takeaway, I thought, I've just got to do some work. I've got to go and check out some of the master's work. I thought I'm going to try this spreadsheet stuff. And I said to myself, I just want to understand one thing before I go to bed. Made myself feel a little better about what I'm doing. And I discovered the offset function in Excel VBA. I was thinking offset, and I was just trying to get a conceptual understanding. What does it mean, offset? And now we know, fans of the channel know, offset means move away from. And I didn't know it at the time, but I was trying to get a conceptual understanding of offset. And then I saw it in VBA and I worked out how to step through VBA code. And I thought, I've got this. I understand it. Felt amazing. And then for the rest of this holiday, I spent my time doing this spreadsheet modeling coursework. Now, so there was hope on the master's course, but at the same time, I was putting together this skill set that would help me for the rest of my career. I was using this skill set today, this meta skill set. I call it a meta skill set. So conceptual understanding, being able to work through problems, being able to debug and test. These are the skills that make all the other skills easier. So as I was going through this, I was developing this kind of superpower, I think. Anyway, so I submitted the coursework. I would have been happy to pass. I'm just happy to pass this master's. I'll be happy to pass this coursework. And I remember I got 84 marks out of 100, one of the best marks on the module. I couldn't believe it. Suddenly, in that moment, everything changed. Everything changed. I thought I found my niche. I felt that I was bringing a kind of unique angle to the masters because I had quite an unusual background, and I was pairing a lot of soft skills and experience with this more technical skill. So I felt like I was an asset on the masters. I was an asset in group work. And yeah, I went on to have a successful time there. And people started asking me to do spreadsheet work for them. This sounds absolutely ridiculous compared to how I was, 6 months before. And I started doing little projects. I did a project for somebody at my cricket club here at home. And that's how Tiger Spreadsheet Solutions came about, just from those little projects. That led to the YouTube channel, that led to 90,000 subscribers on YouTube, approaching 10 million views on YouTube, a small team working here at Tiger, customers across the world, from high net worth individuals to schools, charities, and global corporates, household names, certainly in the UK, that you would be aware of, working on Excel. But the scope's expanded to working towards data automation, I call it. People working with data, they're moving it around, spending lots of time and frustration doing that. So how to speed that up, get it done at the click of a button. But none of this would be here. I would not be here streaming if I hadn't worked it out in Excel. So that for me is my story. And that for me is my Excel success, because it wasn't just about getting good at Excel. And this is why I get frustrated watching YouTube content sometimes. Like, get good at Excel. You just need to learn a formula. Excel is all about tips and tricks. It might sound silly. These things are always about something deeper than that. And for me, it's not an exaggeration to say Excel helped me heal some of those wounds that you pick up, that all of us have, from our younger days, from school. Preconceptions that we have when a teacher makes a comment to you, And it means that you don't follow a certain path in your life. I remember somebody saying to me once, me saying, I'm interested in playing the drums at school. And somebody said to me, oh, no, you're not a drummer. You're never tapping your fingers like this. If you're going to be a drummer, you must tap your fingers. And that meant I never tried drumming until I was like 25, 28, 30 or something. So these things stay with us. They're pervasive, and Excel for me helped me to heal that, helped me to have a different perception of myself, and helped me to move my career in a different direction. So that's my Excel success. It's about more than Excel. Excel's not the project. You're the project. Yeah, your Excel year starts here. So I'm interested to hear your story. That's my story, but this year isn't about me. It's about you. So let me ask, what's your story? Where are you on your Excel journey? I can see the comments in. Thank you for the comments, guys. Where are you on your Excel journey? Now, when I'm thinking about, segmenting the market, that's a terrible technical phrase, isn't it? But we have to think about our viewership here on the YouTube channel. We have different audiences, sub-audiences, if you like, that we aim at. And they're helpful in this sense because what are some of the common pain points that people, Excel users, are feeling? Well, I have three groups of people in mind. Firstly, that students or very early career professional, the world of work can look intimidating. It looks like people have crazy skills. They're never that crazy. But how can you quickly skill up? The job market's so competitive these days, difficult for young people. And then there's all kinds of economic pressures, not to mention social pressures from social media and things like that. There's a lot of challenge. So how could you really make some focused efforts and skill up, make yourself stand out in the job market and make yourself feel confident about what you've got to offer? Yes, your Excel year could start here. This could be the year of your Excel success. What if you're that kind of mid-career professional? I'm really interested in this kind of person because it's kind of where I am. I'm having lots of conversations. I'm a dad now, so I have conversations with other dads and other parents, usually at children's parties where it's incredibly loud. And, my hearing's bad anyway because of drumming. And I'm really tall, so I'm kind of leaning down to listen to people. Anyway, that's the backdrop for me. But your mid-career, is it too late to change? Is it too late to make a sideways move? Is it too late to get away from that feeling that you've been pigeonholed? Is it too late to get away from those assumptions you've held about yourself and what you can actually do? Because so many mid-career people, I don't want to be harsh or patronizing, but they're just kind of working towards their pension. They're in their 30s or 40s and they're counting down the years until they can retire. But your years in retirement, are they your best years, physically and mentally? The opportunity is now. So what might your Excel success look like? And then the third group of people, so more senior people, if you like. So people coming towards the end of their career. And we often have people who are looking to do Excel as a bit of a side hustle or to support some kind of interest we've got. So we've mentioned many times on the channel, we have lots of interest from people who are trading football data, trading football matches rather, and they're very interested in using football data better in Excel to be able to do that with more confidence and more clarity. And these people are dealing with the same things we've been talking about. They have a set of ideas about themselves, about what they can and can't do. So even if you're late career, even if you're retired, we have lots of people in your situation watching these videos. So your Excel year starts here too. What does your Excel success look like? And the key point really is Excel is always a means to an end. I always say to people, nobody actually wants to get good at Excel, maybe with drumming as well. Maybe I didn't want to get good at drumming. It's always about some kind of higher goal. So I'd love to hear in the comments, guys. I can see the comments coming in. Fantastic. I'd love to hear in the comments, if you're watching on replay or you're listening to the podcast, where are you on your Excel journey? And what pain points are you feeling? And What if this year was different? What if this year was the year of your Excel success? With that said, let's get into systems. Yeah. So now we're going to move forward with some practical stuff that maybe you never knew about Excel, but I've been cooking up over the past 10 years and with more intention over the past 2 or 3 months. We're going to reveal what we're talking about shortly in the stream. Been cooking this up intentionally for people like you. So let's talk about a simple conceptual framework for dealing with Excel problems. And you might have heard me say this on the channel. There's only 4 things you are ever doing in Excel. And we've taken this a step further. I talk about 4 Excel personalities. And the truth is, if you can identify what your Excel personality is, if you can identify the kind of problems you're working with in Excel, it makes everything so much easier, because we've got to make sure our ladder is not leaning up against the right wall. Yes. Well, let me go on a brief, sidebar quickly, but you can have 2 people who are both perceived to be good at Excel, and sometimes, God forbid, at dinner parties or at children's parties, somebody else who's good at Excel, hears that I'm an Excel guy and wants to talk Excel. Yeah, well, that's lovely, but I don't feel super comfortable in that situation. But 2 people who are both perceived to be good at Excel have very different skill sets. They're good at different things within Excel. And I find, my skills are often around VBA, although these days I have a strong general skill set in Excel. I've been doing some M language in Power Query this afternoon. But other people tend to be quite formula focused. And you end up, it's like ships in the night, you're not quite talking the same language, but it just underlines to me what a rich topic Excel is. So being good at Excel isn't really a thing. It's a bit like saying, oh, I'm good at communication. Well, communication in what situation? I always think about football managers. You have successful football managers who have a very direct and confrontational communication style. And then you have football managers who are very kind of, more quiet and passive. Nuno Espirito Santo, Nottingham Forest fans will be a fan of him. So different ways of doing the same thing, if you like. So you've got to work out what is your Excel personality and what generally are the problems that you're working with. So let's go through these one by one. So firstly, data management. So everybody is a data manager in Excel. It's the most important Excel personality. That's because if you've ever opened up a spreadsheet and inputted something to a cell, yes, you are now an Excel data manager. So data management is the practice of inputting, importing, cleansing, and transforming data to get the data and data format you need. Yes, doing this all the time in Excel. My work this week, as I said, I've been in Power Query. Power Query, we're not going to get technical, but it's a great tool for bringing multiple files together. We've got a set of teams in different countries. They all need to submit the same data. We want to collate. We want to bring together multiple Excel files into a single Excel file. How many times across the world at any given time is that specific task happening? So common in organizations. How to actually do it? Well, that's an example of data management. So if you are inputting, importing, cleansing, and transforming data, you are involved with data management. So at the risk of overloading you at this point, I have a toolkit for each of these Excel personalities. So yes, if you can identify what your Excel personality is, you can identify the specific subset of tools that you need to be using in Excel. You can be sure that your ladder is leaning against the right wall and that you are going in the right direction. So I'm going to flash up this graphic. You don't have to take it all in now, guys. What I'm saying to you is a conceptual framework exists for you to get exactly what you need, for you to resist the overwhelm and get the clarity that you need in Excel. So for data management, we have a specific set of tools for input, a specific set of tools for import, a specific set of tools for cleaning data, and a set of tools for transforming data. I'm not going to go through these now, but if what I was just saying about the kind of tasks that you have to do as an Excel data manager, if that feels like your Excel personality, you need to be looking at data management and the tools in our data management toolkit. Now, you're thinking, Chris, that might be quite useful. Can I get it? Glad you're thinking that. So you need our Excel cheat sheet. You can see our Excel cheat sheet, which you can see right here. And I'm going to find a better overlay for that. It's this overlay here. Oh, no way. I didn't set up the overlay properly. So let's switch it off. But anyway, we've got the Excel cheat sheets. So these are the things you need to know in Excel, structured around the 4 applications of Excel, the 4 Excel personalities. The link is in the video description below. You will go on our marketing mailing list. When you download the cheat sheets, you can unsubscribe from that anytime. So it's all there for you. Okay, so that's the data manager. What's the second Excel personality is data analysis. So data analysis is making sense of a data set by counting and categorizing data, applying statistical measures, creating charts, etc. So for me, it's the thing that people most readily associate with Excel. Data analysis. So you've got a data set, you need to do a presentation to your team, to your boss, summarizing this data set, telling the story of the data set, helping people make sense of this data set. So yeah, we're going to be looking at charts. We're going to be looking at a set of formulae, things like SUMIFs and DSUM. Pivot tables is also an option for data analysis. So if the data analyst is your Excel personality, we have a subset of tools here for you. With data analysis, we talk about concepts because the first thing, it always starts with the concepts here at Tiger. The first thing is to understand what kind of data am I actually analyzing. Make sure you're leaning your ladder up against the right wall. And then we've got some very good formula options in Excel. Yes, you don't need anything fancy. You might not need a pivot table at all to do your Excel data analysis. Very powerful and underrated Excel formulae exist. I've got some of them listed down there. And then a pivot table is probably the best kind of general tool that you could have to quickly do a data analysis and then go from a data analysis to a nice visual analysis with charts and slicers, pivot chart, a nice interactive dashboard. It only takes a few minutes to set up. So this is our toolkit. We've spoken about being a data manager, spoken about being a data analyst. So now let's talk about being a modeler. So a modeler, using formulae to create a calculation chain in Excel to reflect some kind of real world situation, e.g. a budget planner. Yes, if you were given the job at work, say you've got to organize the Christmas party. I always seem to come back to the Christmas party, don't I? But say you've got to organize the Christmas party at work. Everybody's going to put in a certain amount of money for the Christmas party. Do people have to pay for their Christmas parties these days? I'm not sure. But let's say they do. And then you want to be able to have a Christmas party within that budget, the budget being the sum of the money that the people have put in. Well, we could do that in Excel. Yeah, this is the money coming in. We've got this many people coming. They're paying this much money. And then on the expenditure side, we want to go to this restaurant. It's this much per head. And you could bring this all together in Excel and work out what your profit and loss is from the little Christmas party project. So this is an example of modeling. It's modeling because we're creating relationships in Excel formulaically via formulae to reflect those real world relationships. The balance of money coming in, money going out, that's a real world relationship. We're trying to express that using formulae, which is the main tool for use that we use in this situation. Now, modeling is the least common of the Excel personalities of the applications of Excel, but is probably the most specialized. So if you are involved with a modeling job, it's often to do with budgeting. Doesn't have to be to do with budgeting. A modeling job I did this week was I had to take some things in Excel, and I had to convert them to JSON language, JSON language, which is database language. So I had to take some text. I had to understand what was in that text. I had to separate it out and then put some curly brackets on and put some square brackets on, all in the right places. I did that with about 30 columns, each containing a formula. There's a calculation chain, and then the output at the end is what you need. So that kind of thing is a modeling problem. And we have our modeling toolkit here. Once again, this might feel like overwhelm if you try to take it all in now. I'm not asking you to take it all in now, because we're going to cover it all in what I'm going to tell you about in just a few minutes. But once again, it all starts with a conceptual understanding here at Tiger. So conceptually, if you need inputs, calculations, and outputs, you are working with a model. There's our big 5 modeling formulae. And then we talk about modeling skills, and the skills help you understand the underlying logic of your model. If you can't express the real world relationships conceptually, just on pen and paper, you're never going to be able to do the modeling. So this is our modeling toolkit. And finally, so we've spoken about 3 of the Excel personalities: the data manager, the data analyst, and the modeler. What about the automator? And if you would say to me, Chris, what's your Excel personality? I'd say I am probably an automator. I've certainly, in some small way, managed to develop a reputation in the sector for doing automation. Automation is incredibly powerful. It's the application that's going to potentially save you a huge amount of time. It's the application that's most likely to make someone go, oh my goodness, how on earth did you do that? It's the application that's most likely to change someone's day-to-day work habits. You know, for example, our customers, an early project I did, a customer was doing a process every day. It was taking 3 hours, and we automated it, and it takes him 5 to 10 minutes now. So we're talking about serious gains when we're talking about automation. But a quick definition: translating a manual process in Excel to a short computer program to do it at the click of a button. And once again, automation often involves manual jobs, people moving data around. When we talk about data management, we said data collation. So people want to collate data all the time from multiple sheets into one sheet, multiple files into one file. There are options to do that without automation tools, things like Power Query. But automation tools, we're talking VBA, we're talking Power Automate, we're talking Office Script. These tools get it done at the click of a button. They're the cleanest, most powerful solutions. Any logic you can articulate in your own language, you can translate into VBA, for example, and get that logic and get an incredible process that's going to save you a huge amount of time. And I've said many times on the channel, we have a customer over in Florida, and this customer we've been working with for 5 or 6 years. The basic process in their business to deliver the core product they deliver is automated using Excel, using spreadsheets. They took the tool that we've developed and they showed it to a software company and said, could you give us a quote to develop this into an online tool outside of Excel? And can you guess how much they were quoted to do that? $1 million. $1 million to do that. Did they spend $1 million with us? I wish they did. They probably spent $30,000 to $50,000 in, maybe a bit more, in that time with us. But we're talking a money investment that 10x's, that's going to have a 10x return. So that's a great illustration of the power of automation. Okay, so we've spoken about story. What is your story? You know, can you look in the mirror and can you have a bit of an honest conversation with yourself? You know, why are you here? Why are you here? I don't believe it's because you want to know about what's the latest stuff in Excel. You know, I don't really do that, but there's a reason I don't do that, because it detracts from what Excel is actually about, which is actually about profound, meaningful changes in your life and career, the kind of things that we've been talking about today. So what's your story? I'd love to hear in the comments, you know, what stage are you at? What are the pain points that you're facing, and what are you missing to stop you moving further? Well, I'm saying to you today, your Excel year starts here. And what if this year was different? What if this year was the year of your Excel success? Yes, 2026 Tiger Spreadsheet Solutions is the year of your Excel success. I've broken it down into seasons, but I'm going to provide you with the mindset, the motivation, the toolkit, and the resources to make this year the year of your Excel success. Yes, we've got 4 seasons, as you can see. These seasons are categorized in terms of our Excel personalities because, yes, you'll have a specific personality. You'll have a specific way that you're used to working with Excel. You'll have a specific set of problems that you're used to dealing with. But if you can round out your Excel personality, if you can bring in elements of the data manager, the data analyst, the modeler, and the automator, particularly the automator, in my opinion, you are going to have a skill set that is going to push you forward. Yeah, you're going to have a skill set that makes people stand up and take notice. You're going to have a skill set that means you can talk confidently about Excel in an interview situation. You're going to have a skill set that might allow you to impress the right people in your organization and make that sideways move into more meaningful work that makes you excited. And if you're at the end of your career, you can still make that move that allows you to reprogram how you think about yourself a bit. You know, maybe you are a numbers person. Maybe maths isn't all that hard. And you, like me, you had a bit of a tough time at school with it. But there's a lot of joy, a lot of beauty there. And there's still time to discover it. So this is the kind of transformation that we're looking for in the year of your Excel success. So this is what I'm revealing today. And this gives us a kind of conceptual overview. And we've covered story and system. We'll cover starters in a second, but let me tell you, roughly speaking, how it's going to work. Firstly, every Friday, we will have our, not every Friday, the last Friday of the month, we will have our final Friday live stream. You know, because you are here now. So every Friday you can get together. You can get together with me and Jazz. Paul is in the chat. I'm just getting into the chat for the first time now. Various people in the chat, various familiar and new names. Absolutely fantastic to see you all. But I'm saying every Friday, come and check in. Sorry, not every Friday. I'll get this right eventually, won't I? Final Friday, the final Friday of the month. Come and check in with me. Guys, I'm like a broken record. You know this. I've been talking about this stuff for 10 years. I'm not going to change. I'm going to be talking about the same thing. I'm going to be talking about your story. You know, could you write it down now? How are you progressing with your story? We can talk about the system. So the conceptual framework, you know, have you kind of fleshed out what your Excel personality is? Are you a modeler, an analyst, a manager, or an automator? We're going to be talking about the practical stuff as well, because each month we're covering a specific topic. So each month you can expect between 2 and 4 videos on YouTube covering a specific topic. And it's not just any old topic. It's not just the latest stuff that's coming in Excel. It's not topics that are designed to get views. I've kind of done all that on YouTube. These are the topics organized intentionally organized in a very specific way to get you exactly the information you need to round out your skill set to move you forward in your career and in your life. So this month, so we can see we've got the 4 applications of Excel there, the 4 personalities. And then on the right, we've got subheaders, and these subheaders roughly equate to what we're going to be doing month by month. So season 1, so January, February, and March. So we're speaking today about story, system, and starters. We've got some videos coming out over the next few weeks. Again, I'm going to talk about my story. I'm going to invite you again in a 6-minute video to tell me about your story and your motivation. We've got a video about the system that I've covered, the 4 applications of Excel, making sure you're leaning your ladder up against the right wall. You're not wasting time with automation when you should be doing modeling, you know, for example. We're going to talk about, and then we're going to talk about data management in months 2 and 3, talk about data input and import, data cleansing and transformation. So data management can have a huge impact on your Excel work, things like Power Query, various other things. Dynamic array formulae, we'll be covering those in months 2 and 3. So season 2 takes us on to the data analyst. So months 4, 5, and 6, we're going to be understanding data types, so the conceptual side of data analysis. Formulae for data analysis. Yes, you might be able to do data analysis just with a formula. And then we're going to be talking about pivot tables and dashboards, because a pivot table is scary, but it is the best way to get a quick and effective data analysis with some nice visual support. So season 2, talking about the data analyst. Season 3, so months 7, 8, and 9, we're going to talk about the modeler. So it always starts with the concepts. What are the modeling concepts? Input, process, output, expressing logic visually so you can actually understand it before you try to express it with formulae. What are the essential modeling formulae I've already mentioned? The big 5 Excel modeling formulae. We'll be digging deep into those, some old classics and some new stuff. And then advanced formula building skills. So that's the modeler. Season 3, then season 4, so months 10, 11, 12, we're going to talk about automation. This is the part I'm probably most excited about. What is automation and automation options? Automation for cloud and desktop, because this is really the main kind of, how would you say, this determines more than anything else which tools you should go for. Are you working primarily in the cloud? So using things like OneDrive and SharePoint, or are you working primarily on desktop? That means you're probably in VBA land. Then finally, to your Excel success, we're not just going to learn a bunch of stuff. As I said, I'm going to be here every month for you to check in and to give you the skills, the confidence, the community you need to push forward. So at the end of the year, we'll be talking about what's next. What's next for your Excel success. Excel success for me this year means delivering the year of your Excel success. That's what Excel is helping me to do this year. We've connected with millions of people through the YouTube channel. Can we connect with a few million more people this year with the best free framework that we've ever brought to YouTube? And you tell me, is anybody else doing this? I see lots of people covering new Excel formulae. Is anybody really dealing with the fundamentals that are going to move the needle for you in your career and indeed in your life? So your Excel year starts here, and this is the year of your Excel success. Welcome to the year of your Excel success. Leave me a comment below. I would love to hear what situation you're in, what problems you're dealing with, externally and internally, if you like, and then where you'd like to get to this year. Okay, I will hop into the comments and let's see how everybody's doing. So guys, if you've got any final questions, please leave a question now and I will deal with it. So Paul, how are you doing? It's good to see you, Paul. It's been a while. Jazz is with us too. It's good to see you, Jazz. How are you getting on? Henrik is with us. Henrik, always good to see you. Henrik says, hello, Chris. Thank you for improving my skills in VBA. It was here everything began. Well, Henrik, we are starting again. Your Excel year starts here, Henrik. So let me know again in the comments where you're at and where you want to get to. Thank you to this viewer. Is it Kofi? You're going to start the VBA classes again. Fantastic. All of the classic Tiger content, the evergreen content that keeps getting views, that will all be there during the year of your Excel success, of course. Ethan here, how are you? Ethan here, Members Monday alumni checking in. Good to see you, Ethan. What stage are you at now? And is this year going to be the year of your Excel success? Let me know. Very good. And Ethan says, finally wrote my first DAX expression in Excel yesterday. Fantastic stuff. Okay. So the year of your success, story, systems, starters. This is what we've covered. So I want to know your story. Leave it in the comments. Let me know what you think to the systems. We've covered the simple 4 applications of Excel, the 4 Excel personalities. Are you excited about the year of your Excel success? And remember, Excel is the medium. You are the project. Let's go.